what's going on here, I don't know if anybody told you anything about the site thus far, but it's a prehistoric site dating back several thousand years, judging by the artifact styles that we're finding. The site was actually discovered in 1984 by the highway archaeologist doing a survey from Silverthorne up to the county line, essentially for all these projects, of course. There are artifacts on the surface, which is what keyed them into that there was actually something here, and they're eroding out of the road. And they extend approximately from that boulder up to the north, down to the DOW sign at the south entrance, from the toe of the slope here over to the edge of this terrace. So long and thin, at least, long and narrow, at least on the surface. Well then, Wes Goff up at the tunnel residency had us come in last year and do some preliminary test excavations, just to see what, in fact, is below the surface on the site, because it's fairly sparse on the surface. But you just never know until you stick a shovel in the ground. So we came last August, and we dug... Dramatic pause. We dug a few test pits, including this one here, which has just been backfilled, so there was no reason to re-excavate that. As well as a number of pits up to the north, some further south here. And it was this area here that had lots of chipstone and chipstone tools, some of which I'll show you in a moment. You can see that the deposits are not particularly deep here. See, it's a little deeper here. Not necessarily that we're getting culture material that deep, but we're also just not getting the rocks as shallow there as we are over here. I mean, the sediments just get shallower as you head towards the edge of the terrace. As you know when you drive in over them back there. So most of the culture material is essentially the two strata here, the dark stuff up top, and the tan sand down below. So the artifacts are really, for the most part, confined to this level and above.
What age do you think they are?
Well, within the last probably 2,000 to 5,000 years. Now we do have a projectile point, a spear point, which I'll show you, that is older than that, but we had a geomorphologist out recently to tell us what's going on with the soils, and he doesn't think these soils are that old, even this brownstone. So what may have happened is somebody picked that point up elsewhere thousands of years ago and brought it here, but the style leads us to believe, in fact, we're confident that it's much older than most of the things that we're finding here. We did have a fire pit over here. Doesn't look like much now, it's just a big hole underground, but we put these stones back more or less in place. They had sometimes folks, just like modern campers, everybody has their different way of making a fire ring, I suppose. But they actually put these more or less flat stones on the bottom to form the basin of the hearth, and then just built their fire on top of that. When we found it, it's just a mass of these burned cobbles with ashy soil. There's lots of charcoal, some of which is still in here.
Oh, yeah.
So we took a rather large charcoal sample. We can get a carbon-14 date out of that, which will tell us the last time that the hearth was fired. We can also do an analysis of some of the bulk soils and see what kinds of seeds or tubers they might have been processing in the hearth. So this is going to be pretty cool. I anticipate this will be several thousand years old. Let's go take a look at some art over to Randy's office one day. It's probably been a couple of years ago. I saw it laid out on the table. I'm sure you have. I think you have a different model.
Yeah, we have. We've progressed.
We'll get right to the good stuff.
Yeah, we have nice sun now.
The weather's just been gorgeous the last week and a half. That's a broken drill, stone drill. Broken there, of course, would have tapered to a point up here. And then they would just take this, haft it to a shaft, like an arrow point or a spear point, and then use it as a perforating tool or even a cutting tool. This is interesting because most of the stone, the chipstone material we're finding comes out of Middle Park, but this is from down near Buena Vista. So these are nomads. They're on their seasonal rounds. They're either going to these known quarry sites like Middle Park, and this is Trout Creek Chert from down around Trout Creek Pass, and picking this stuff up on their seasonal rounds. So kind of, we can type the stone that way. That's kind of cool. And this was just on the surface over here.
Wow.
So there are things present on the surface
Huh.
that are identifiable. The thousands and thousands of artifacts that we're finding mostly are the chips, just the waste flakes from manufacturing these things. So they're not particularly exciting. But then we have pieces like that.
That's nice.
And this one we think is probably 2,000 to 4,000 years old and probably began as a larger point and was then resharpened, just like we'd resharpen any metal tools these days. Folks would pick these up, keep resharpening them, and perhaps change the shape and the style to fit whatever they thought was aesthetically pleasing or proper functionally. And this might have been 1,000 years after it was manufactured. We think that because of the shape of the base, which is the most important part as far as chronology. But kind of a nice little bit. And all these were found, all the points were found buried in the grid block over here.
So this is, you wound up here pretty quick.
Is that right?
Maybe thunderstorms and stuff. Oh, wow.
Is that
Oh,
nice?
my.
Yeah.
That is nice.
That's the one we think is 7,000 to 8,000 years old. It's a real characteristic leaf shape, lanceolate point.
Wow.
Beautiful craftsmanship on that. And it's rather unique and unusual because of the serrated edges.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is, I mean, there are other points we've found that have serrated edges, but with this particular style, because it's older, we don't generally find the serrated edges. So we do think that this one perhaps was picked up and then perhaps reworked a little bit itself, but kept the same basic shape. Also notice that you see where the serrations edge or end there and there. If you feel that, it's like they've actually ground that smooth, and they've actually dogged the ears. They did that purposefully, so that when it's hafted onto a shaft, it doesn't split the shaft. So this is
Jeez.
very, very cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
We had to stop. We got pretty excited when we found that.
Throw a
'cause
party.
It's fairly rare. It's true. It's true. So cut right to the chase. That was the coolest thing we found.